John and I got seated into each other at once, and I said that when I do, I'm strong. Can't get away, can't you? Yeah, I know.
You're starting.
Yeah.
You didn't ask for forgiveness. I do that sometimes. I know that covered your life. Please, send me a message. Yeah. Working hard here, Lord. Search me. Oh, I'm sure I will. There's probably some kind of course.
Right? Yeah.
Training.
Yeah, Debbie was here, here, she'd be sitting here saying.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank everybody for tuning tonight. Monday, March 10th, 2025, Edward County Council meeting. Mr. Bryant. Ms. Reed. Ms. Lost her family. She's out of town. Ms. Rooks.
Here.
Also with us is Doug Hunston, town attorney, John Myers, town manager, and I'm the Barry, treasurer. All right, minutes of council meeting February 24th, 2025.
There are no corrections or discussion on the motion to approve the minutes as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, claims, Randy.
It's either time you have comes out with the amount, $485,180.
Question to your claims.
Yes. Motion to approve the minutes as presented. Aye.
All right. Under the investment invoice 464, 51 for one treatment.
This was for Western, for the one vote, to the amount of $4,000. And it is approval and Ryan said. Make a motion to approve the Newport Western Resolution 4625, in the amount of $4,191.
Favor?
Motion for President to sign off on the Western Resolution.
All in favor?
Aye.
HWC engineering agreement and services. Mr. Myers.
Mr. President, this is a contract we approved earlier, has reviewed, contract approved with the Unified Development Ordinance. That's it for the super. And the signature.
You don't have to vote to do this.
No, that makes a two-year change. One, application of that.
Well, you're okay. Yes, ma'am. USWC internet agreement for the services as presented.
All in favor?
Motion to approve for Council President Pierce to sign off on the HWC internet agreement. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Lake Utility, Financial Management Services, Mr. Finley and Mr. Lynch.
Sorry, if I put in this. Set up your council, I appreciate you taking some time to talk today. Okay, council, so, as I've talked to, several of you over the last couple of meetings here about, we've been, discussing the, possibility of moving the town government to UG plus, TIP plus service line, which, ultimately we hope, is mutually beneficial to the town of utility, allows us to provide better service while, giving you, a better sense of, what you're going to be paying over, the normal contract, maybe a little year under to us for those fees. Ron and I met with Heidi, John, I'm sorry, met with myself, Heidi, and Greg to discuss this about a month ago, maybe. Ultimately, the way this came about was I was here working with Ron on the budget back on the May of last year, and Mr. Myers and Ms. Barrett had expressed interest in some sort of long-term financial planning document that we could provide to help the town better anticipate where they're going to be coming in 3, 4, 5 years, and where the town can be financially. So the need for this not only stems from the management of the town requesting something like this, but I'm sure you're all very familiar with this one, the property tax reform that's being proposed with the legislation right now. So it is possible that there's going to be some additional property tax losses, as well as some other revenue losses. So really we need to make sure that the town's in a place that we're planning for those types of losses of revenues. If there's things that we can show that we request, that's something we can do. So you guys have heard enough out of me, so I brought Eric Walsh, the principal of Lake Utility. He is the service line expert for BT Plus and Big Plus. This is a service that we provide to 30 or 40 other communities in the state of Michigan. So all that Eric kind of gave me a breakdown.
To the council, the treasurer, Derek Walsh, principal of Lake Utility. Try to be brief tonight, but as Scott said, this is really a brainchild of a team that I lead in our group, and it is born out of many of our medium-sized to smaller communities are just needing more and more assistance. There's really a cyclical need to that assistance, so I'll get to here in a minute. But we fully recognize a lot of those communities have more economic constraint than the larger cities and towns that we serve. So the BT Plus, TIP Plus, and really stands for kind of Big Utility Plus, accident financing plus, those are services that many communities already use from us, financial planning related, annual financial reports, budgets, so on and so forth. It's really a pricing package, as you'll see later, to get a blended rate to these communities where we can plan the calendar out for the entire year, staff it at levels that are more affordable both for us and those communities, have the same project team throughout the 12 months, allows us to provide service, multiple services at a cost point that's cheap. And I'll show you that in dollars and cents here. Now, the big piece for you guys, and I know what Scott's meant previously, is we are proposing an additional service within this, which is the financial planning piece. So, and I think we gave us examples earlier. Okay. That is the new and the costly piece to it. So you'll see that when I get to a slide, how much that actually broken down to you guys about service to service. So we have to reduce hours, reduce price, and see exactly how it is. This is very transparent. I'll tell you the exact budget rate we're using per hour, so on and so forth. But this service has existed for probably 3 to 4 years. As Scott said, we probably do this for close to 40 communities right now. It's really based on 3 different pieces. One, transparency. This has been a push significantly, not only at the state level, but the federal level. Anytime you're doing anything related to tax rates, local tax rates, utility fees, et cetera, more and more questions, being out in front of that, not just for the council and the decision makers, but giving you guys information that's useful in talking to the public about this. And you'll see a few of those components on the slide. 2, predictability. As I'm sure any of you that deal probably with the treasurer primarily, because you guys have to sign off on things, every year there's more reporting requirements from the state. Our friends in legislation right there in legislative mode right now, you'll probably have a few more coming next year as well. So we build around that calendar, state required reporting, but then there's components too, like when you talk about the budget, you guys want to start the budget just when we get to August, right? What treasurer starting that in months before, capital planning needs, utility needs, so on and so forth, as you guys think will be able to follow and adopt your budget. There's a lot of leading to that, and we build a calendar around those pieces as well. And then the value part I talked about earlier, I think I'm going to show you that on the slide. Just so you can see it and document it. So here's your typical schedule. Some of these are state required. Some of these are what you do in anticipation of the state requirements. I'll start at the top, what we just actually got done with, which is the annual financial report. I know Scott and his team assisted a little bit on that, but primarily is there the majority of it. Then you have your utility financial plan. That's what we call your financial management reports. You guys have seen that in the past. You guys have been doing this for several years. It's got capital planning, rate planning. So you know, hey, what do we have to do for our utility rates to go forward to control all this, right? So that's not a new service. That's just rolled in as something you want to do. The new service, or one of the 2 new services proposed, is the Town Redevelopment Commission Financial Planning Multi-Year. That's the example you saw, okay? The easiest way to think of this, probably since you haven't done it before, is it's exactly what you're doing for your utilities. It's a multi-year outlook, but instead of managing utility rates, you're managing tax revenues, right? Because you're not really managing the tax rate, you're giving your max revenue growth portion of the year. You're getting your tax rate, you're managing how you spend those revenues the most efficient way possible. You think of it as managing tax rate, that's a little bit of this level since you have a tax rate set up the state. State required TIF annual reporting, that has gotten more and more each year. There's some additional add-ons last year. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few new things this year when we get the final bills proposed. Semi-annual council financial updates, that will be something twice a year. I think Scott provided an example of that as well. Some communities want this, some communities don't. That's one of the places we talk about if you want to reduce costs. This is one of the areas I would suggest you consider it. A lot of communities that we work with through council has we asked to say, look, I want to know that we're on track. I want something very simple that I can read in 10 minutes and I can regurgitate United States. That's the purpose of this. It's really a check-in twice a year to show where you are financially compared to the plan that's going. And it gets audited, right? Ongoing accounting support, that's something we've done for years. Let's just roll into this. And then annual budget assistance. That's not something new. One thing I would say likely would be a new piece of that going forward in this year and future years is, as any of you that are tracking legislation to SB1, some of the House bills that are going through, one of the big pushes or talking points is government spending, local government spending, right? That's what's being led to be potentially leading to higher tax rates, okay? One area that's coming from is when you go look at many communities around the state, you look at their budget versus what they spend, pretty big discrepancy, okay? Nothing wrong with that, but it can give the reader of that may not be fully educated on that specific city, town, or school, the misconception that, well, they have too much money because they don't spend the budget. So they spend 90% of their budgets or 85% of their budgets, etc. What we're recommending communities do that are in this program is starting with what we call zero-based budget. Okay, so go back to the beginning. Let's look at every single line item as you build your budget. Justify it, make sure that we're not over budgeting for anything, and then come back to your final budget. It should be a few percentage points of a number, but not too much. Okay? You don't do that all in 1 year, especially if the clerk treasurer is probably getting a little bit nervous. That takes a couple of years to accomplish that, but you're going to see that continued push from our legislature. Now, why are you underspending budgets so significantly? Does that mean you don't need all the revenue? Which we all know in the room, right, your budget's not really tight around it, but everybody understands that. This shows on the left the current services, in bluish green. The reddish orange would be the proposed additional services. The primary one of focus is on the left-hand side of that comprehensive town RDC financial plan. When I break this down, you'll see that's the expensive component of this. All the others are really just rolled into the additional reporting. This is hard to see, I know, so don't pay attention to the numbers, but when we talk about a comprehensive financial plan, what you already do for your utilities, in the city and the redevelopment commissions, and TIF dollars, property tax, and tax dollars, they're primarily in local generated revenues. Where we always start is with the council, department, and administration, department heads and administration on capital needs and wants. Okay, so not dissimilar from your utilities. That's everything from rolling stock, paving, sidewalks, buildings, maintenance, upkeep. What's everything on that list for the next 3 to 5 years? And those lists get pretty long. And most of your department heads probably already have that list. It's written down somewhere, it's in their head, it's a comprehensive plan, they've done it for years, etc. We start there, and then we start overlaying your financial history and trends to that. Because what you're going to see, and you guys are a prime example, and either around 10, 12 years ago when circuit breakers started taking back, you guys fully well know you guys lose over $1 million to circuit breakers. You guys had to make some changes, I'm sure, back a decade ago, plus from that. Senate Bill 1's not going to be that devastating, but there's going to be revenue shifts and revenue shortages. As you probably remember back then, the first thing that typically gets cut or is on the table is capital spending. That's the easiest thing to cut. Now that you overlay that in inflationary times that we're coming through and currently a little bit still in, now you're starting to weigh the priorities of do we do capital spending, do we take this street, keep our public safety fully staffed, we have state police salaries increasing, how do we keep up with those? All these priorities that you're juggling, and then you add on revenue. That's the purpose of these planning documents and these multi-year plans of how do you make sure it's sustainable in the next 2 years? That makes sense? But focusing on what moves the dial primarily is capital. Infrastructure, that is your most costly, expensive investment. So here's the breakdown, probably what you're most inclined or most interested in. On the left-hand side, this is what we've been doing historically. So we've done the TIF reporting, the financial management, multi-year plans, and assistance with the budget, the annual financial report, just general accounting support throughout the year as things come up, primarily predicated on that statement reporting timeline we talked about, the multiple TIF, annual financial report, budget, so on and so forth. Approximately $52,000. And the proposal that you have in front of you is fixed fee pricing, $7,200 per month, $86,000 in total. So it is an increase. You'll see on the next slide when we get that percent, Scott. That's almost all driven by the financial plans. Before I move on from this, a couple of pieces to make sure you probably already know this, but to highlight. Your current spending is at a time and expense rate. So you get billed for the time it takes. It takes you more time to do the annual financial report from us to help. You get the hours time to do it. It takes you less time, you save money. The Baker Utility BT Plus TIP Plus is a fixed fee per month for a block of hours. Okay? Every month you get the same exact bill, $7,200 per month. You split it to the same funds to pay that, so the clerk treasurer's not splitting it from different funds. It's fixed throughout the year. And as you go through the year, you see the tracking of those hours. If you use less than the agreed 2 hours, that gets credited back to you. On either if you go the next year into the same invoice, or it gets credited back to you because you didn't use all the hours. You get those dollars back. If you use more than the agreed 2 hours, you go to our standard pricing, which is our time and expense hours, which is a higher rate. Go to the next slide, please. This shows you the breakdown of that 86,000. Annual financial reporting and the hours. You see the left is the hours and the estimated cost. What you'll see if you do the math in this right away is each of those line items is going to come up to approximately a blended rate of just under $270 per hour. So right now, you're already currently doing item 1, the annual financial report, item 2, the budget assistance, not the third line, the comprehensive plan, that's the significant additional cost. You're not doing the council summary packets, and then you're doing the last 3 line items. Financial management reports are those utility reports you already do. TIP management is all the TIP reporting that you're required to do for the state, and then miscellaneous accounting support is throughout the year. Not to get too wonky into accounting and get into all these different details, if you go back and forth from the first slide to the second slide that we just looked at, you would notice the budget assistance is down a little bit, the TIP reporting a little bit less, the annual accounting support is about $5,000 less than you saw on the previous slide. That is because the hourly rate for this is lower than our standard hourly rate if you do the whole year. Does that make sense? The 200 roughly $270 per hour, just under, it adds up to this for 321 hours. That's equivalent, our manager level rate is about $325 per hour. Okay? Our senior accountant, which is the typical accountant that's been with our firm for 3 or 4 or 5 years, that's typically who's actually knows what they're doing is approximately $250 an hour. Partner principal rate, like myself, is about $500. You don't need a lot more work for just reviewing an hour selling. If you're doing that math, that is the pricing difference in this. You're getting basically all of those hours for a little over a senior consultant rate. Scott is a manager. Scott's going to do the majority of the work. When you're doing the history, Scott's rate as a manager is $325 when we don't clients. Okay? So that is, if Scott has every one of those 321 hours, you're getting roughly a 15 to 20% discount. How do we do that? The way we do it is because these are signed on agreements early in the year. We can staff and plan the entire year of work. It's not pop-up last-minute items, but then I have to put more billable hours into it, or a senior person who can actually plan it through. It allows us then to provide this at a discount to our clients. We take write-offs on this, but it is a business decision. We know the revenue we're getting from it. So when I'm doing this to pull out the goodness of our hearts, it helps us and it helps the client. I'm sorry. The last piece that I'll point out to this is, as I started off at the beginning, you will have a fully integrated project. With the Scott at the manager level, Craig Marquette, who's a senior consultant who helps me in probably 50% of the communities we do this for. This is what he does all day, every day. Would be the staff, and then I would be the principal that would be signing off to a final review, going through any questions, concerns that we have. That is for every one of these services that we have. Now, if we run into a major issue or constraint that we need a project expert, we'll bring in one of our other people that deal with it every single day. But for the most part, you're going to deal with those 3 people I just named. Okay? Having the same project team, again, makes this more efficient. We know everything that's going on from utilities, TIF, property tax, income tax, same group. And what you'll notice, the green colors in this is a laid out calendar. You have some touch point or something going on with the town all 12 months. Okay? Again, we're taking some of these services, again, how we provide this at a lower cost point, and we're saying, hey, instead of us doing your financial plan in August, when we're doing 35 other financial plans because everybody's getting ready for the budget, we can move your financial plan up to early summer, spring, do it when we're not as busy. Okay, that fills our budget, we can do it cheaper. And we're able to do that money. Does that make sense? So this is very strategic on our part. Nope, that was enough. This just shows you the project team. I know that's a lot. I know that's a lot of data. I know it's a lot of numbers, costs, etc. I know it's not insignificant. You are looking at a $30,000 increase in the overall cost. I would say, and this is going to be the last plug for this, whether you decide, hey, we want to do less hours or we want to cut out the council semi-annual reports, that's all up to you. It's the same, it'll come back to the same blend rate that you said. What I always tell communities when they go through this is, again, you're getting a discounted rate. I wouldn't cut the hours back so much that then you end up saying, well, we still need you to do this because then you're paying my time. Does that make sense? You're paying the higher rate. So I'll get the services that you want and need. The hours proposed are real hours. We do this again for 3 or other communities I know it's gonna take to get them to pick the services. We'll sign, we'll do the agreement, but then bring it to the contractor. So that was the last thing that I didn't want to say anymore thing. The financial planning piece. I strongly encourage you to consider doing that. With everything that's going to be happening here with legislation coming through, if Senate Bill 1 does end up still changing some, there's going to be some reduction. Figuring out a plan and a baseline is going to be key in that, because you will then use that plan every single year. You'll be rolling it over. What's the next plan of capital coming through? What happened to our circuit breaker this year? What happened to additional property tax freezes that come down the line? Did the legislature in a few years freeze assessed value growth? That's probably what's going to come next if property tax is going down the way that it needs to. You're going to then have that baseline model built. You can do any scenario out of that, but you have to build an initial plan. You don't have a plan, you're just kind of, hey, do we have money to do this? Well, yeah, we have money now, we have money to do this. Those are the types of questions that you need to ask. Any questions for me, or Scott? Please.
In all your clients, if they're making it about hours, how many of them will over about finish?
I would say the ones that do go over, it's typically within like 10 hours of it. It's typically pretty close. I would say in the last 3 years, I've had one, I can do it off the top of my head, maybe two that came in significantly. And the primary reason, the one that I can think of off the top of my head, we've done it for 3 years for them, and the third year it's been the same clerk treasurer. She ended up doing a lot more of the budget piece than they've done in previous years, and they saved like 30, 40 hours on that. We gave that cost savings back.
You don't use on the others, you get that.
Correct. If most, I should say all clients, doing this for 3 or 4 years, I've not had one client that has said, we don't want this service. They change their service stack from year to year, but I've not had one client say, we don't want this service anymore. Every single client we've done this for has stayed with it at this point. They may change the agreement, maybe less hours, more hours, etc. If that happens with you all, you go to the next year, you can either credit all of that to your first bill, so you probably don't have a bill or two for a few months, or you can just write you the credit back on the last month or so. And you get those hours back, you do not keep the, hey, you do these 40 hours, thanks.
Appreciate your presentation, Mr. Johnson. Second time doing this. Appreciate you. Your time. Appreciate you. Unfortunately, my last time, this. Without that, nothing is done. Solid.
It's just a presentation.
Can I interject in that for a second? Just give some, so we have other clients that, they want to talk through, just so you know, like if we're doing work for Rhonda's office, et cetera, and you think, hey, we're gonna table this month and then we'll have a decision, we can hold those hours, the time that Scott's doing, et cetera, if you decide to do it, we want to build it forward, like a really higher rate. So if you can't drag it all the way on June, but if you do another month to make that decision, we'll just hold those hours so we can give you the cheaper rate if you decide to go. So,
I think I have that last thing that you said.
It's time to be fair.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, Stephen, the current session.
Last council meeting, input came down, we talked a little bit for 8 hours. In your package, you should have email from Victoria, kind of summarize what other municipal and community state. Majority of them follow the, $1,000% adder. What was difficult, there's a few examples in there where they did something different. I would suggest we follow what all of the other communities are doing, or municipal doing that 1,000% adder. In addition to the revenue code. A couple of those examples, they had a flat fee with probably into this rate change, but now you have to change the ordinance to
my recommendation of it. Any questions about what happened? The biggest key that I would take out of it is, this doesn't affect everybody. This only affects the people that say, hey, I want to purchase these credits. Whether it be for benefit down the road, or either they can, the contract they got with this lot with somebody else requires them to have this, or tax credits, or some other avenue why they want this. So be it. But the average, realistically, I don't see the average resident homeowner purchasing this program unless they want it. It won't affect anybody's rate unless they want to opt in.
I did, I can, if you want to just do that. Steve, you agree with me?
It's basically, we're creating, right now we've got the 7 tariffs plus a distributed generation, which is for solar or wind or whatever. We're basically creating another bucket that somebody can opt for into that bucket.
And it's all about them making their own decisions, we're not making any recommendations.
We're not increasing everybody's budget, it's balancing.
Exactly.
I think it's
It's
just
just whoever opts for that bucket.
education towards this, but, I mean, I'm not saying we're gonna do it, I'm saying educate the public on doing this.
And they provided, I don't think it was in the email, they provided a sample flyer that one of the other utilities sent out, that we can do something very simple. I think it went out to most residents, which again, I don't think the average resident will say, hey, I'm going to increase my bill to save money. Maybe some people do.
So Dustin has to
If you want to go to the next step, you just want to,